Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Power Half Hour Unstoppable Business Owner. And I'm your host, Dorothy Odell, for this evening. Before we bring our amazing guests onto the show, I just want to give a shout out to tonight's sponsor, which is the Kimbra. Kimbra is a ritual-based subscription that is absolutely amazing for anybody who wants more time, freedom, and resources. It's a great community, so just go check them out at www.thekimbra.com. With that, I am going to bring our amazing guest, Austin, to the show. Welcome to the show, Austin.
Oh, thanks, Dorothy.
All the way from Hawaii. I love that.
Yeah.
The weather, I'm sure, is a lot nicer where you're at than where I'm at right now. So I'll live through you.
A little bit rainy, but yeah, it's nice.
It was -6 this morning here. So.
Oh, wow. Jeez. Yeah, I think it's about high 70s there.
Oh, okay. I gave my husband 5 years before we get our ass to Hawaii. I'm like, by our 5th anniversary, we need to be there at least once. So
Perfect.
we have this year to get us there.
Waiting for you.
Perfect. For those of you that have no idea who Austin really is, Austin, share a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
So my name is Austin, and I created a business called Bringing Balance Back back in 2021, and it's been a couple of years out now. And basically, I wanted to give people an alternative, to pills and surgeries that Western medicine offers. And I think there's a little bit too much of it. I think our mind and body can heal from a lot of things, and I just wanted to give people an alternative.
Right. And why was that so important for you to want an alternative to the regular pills and surgeries and things like that?
Yeah, so I'm actually a registered respiratory therapist for over 12 years. So, I've had a lot of experience in the hospital, about 10 years in the hospital, with all ages. So I worked in NICUs, PICUs, ICUs, CVICUs, ERs. But, after being in the hospital for that long, you come to realize, it feels like that these hospitals are basically owned by these huge pharmaceutical and insurance companies now. And it feels like every single, protocol has some kind of, synthetic medication attached to it. And every single, if the protocol isn't followed, exactly how it is, the insurance companies actually won't reimburse the hospital, for what they're doing. So um, after I found all that stuff out, I come to realize there's alternative ways of, healing the mind and body. And so my dad had lung cancer, but he never smoked a day in his life. And his story basically kind of made me start looking elsewhere. Started reaching reaching out to people who did alternative things, holistic things, and I was, lucky enough to find a couple amazing healers and, spending some time with them and learning, what they did. I was pretty blown away. And so I started learning myself. And once I started to be able to witness some of these things getting better, so I've been lucky enough to see a lot of, chronic pain disappear, anxiety, depression, phobias. I've also seen some really interesting things, like I've seen cancer go into remission. I've seen fibromyalgia completely gone, pinched nerves in the neck, where the neurologist wanted to do surgery, completely gone. Um, I've actually seen eyesight return on a couple occasions, but they weren't blind from birth. So um, yeah, there's so many things that we can heal from just with breathing and visualization, believe it or not. And the more I learned about healing and metaphysics and what was possible with it, it just got more and more interesting, and um, it's just it's just so fun and to see people get better, without any kind of medication and what. And I think my latest client, I actually did a house call. I usually don't do house calls. I usually do all my work over Zoom. But one of my good friends said, "Hey, can you help my cousin?" I didn't really know what to expect. She said, "Oh, she has some kind of eating thing going on." I'm not sure what her diagnosis is. I don't care about diagnoses at this point. But I got to their house and she was 73 pounds. It looked like she was anorexic or bulimic. And but I found out that every time she put food in her mouth, her stomach would just hurt. So as I started talking to her a little bit more, I realized that she'd had this problem for quite some time. And I don't know if you ever heard of, what was it, Pavlov's law or Pavlov's principle, whatever it's called, where, the dog's mouth is watering, right? So it's kind of like that, it was kind of like that for her, where, she's every time she ate food, she would have pain in her body. Every time she ate food, she had pain in her body. Eventually, her body was like, I don't want to eat, right? It's kind of like when you see a dog and a dog bites you, you see a dog and the dog bites you, and by the third time you see the dog, you're gonna have like this feeling inside you where like you're afraid, right? And
Right.
so that's what happened to her. So basically, we had to, clear that out of her nervous system so she could be okay with just eating first. And then, she had some self-image things that we cleared up. And I talked to her, I think, last week, and she gained 7 pounds, and so
Wow.
she's on her way. She got to eat, a Thanksgiving meal with her family, and, she's on her way to getting healthy again. So it's really nice to see people get better, without any pills or anything. We just did some breathing and visualization, just to clear the charge out of the nervous system. So
That's that's incredible. And so full disclosure, Austin and I did a session before we decided to have him come on the show. He says, like, I want you to see what somebody goes through. And so I'm telling you, that was an intense session, but it was so amazing. And so I got to experience what he puts people through. Um, I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but the breathing exercises and things like that. And I'm telling you, I can definitely tell a difference in um, different areas, and that's how we started off tonight. Before we started, he goes, "Hey, what's happened since then?" And I'm telling you, it's confidence has definitely been uh, on the rise for sure since we've had that treatment, I guess you would say. But if I've always been fascinated with healing, and when my dad had lung cancer. He of course wanted to go the non-holistic route, so he did chemo, radiation, things like that, shrunk the tumor, and then the tumor went into his liver. And I said, well, why don't you do alternative medication instead, or some kind of energy healing, or something to that effect. um, and he was against it. So of course you can't force somebody to do something they don't want to do. But I find this fascinating when I first started talking to you, and thinking, there's got to be another way. And I'm thankful I do have a holistic chiropractor too that I've had for years. But I think what you do is even like completely different on top of what she does too. And I don't even know how to describe it. It's like, well, I described it as everything that I've done in the last year mushed all into one is a session with you. So it's like all that on steroids. And so I really do feel the difference, not only in confidence but in clarity as well. Like there's been less brain fog and things like that. Of course, it's been a busy week, so the sleep hasn't been there, but that's my fault. That's not on anything that you did. But really, it's I I can't. I'm trying to put it into words, and I really just can't. You can the difference is like night and day on a lot of different things since having that treatment with you. And so I know that if anybody's out there watching this show that is on the fence, you've tried, uh, I don't know, modern day medicine and it doesn't work for you, or you are wanting to switch to holistic measures, I would definitely recommend getting in touch with Austin, because it's something else. Like, and what you just said about that lady, like, that's incredible. And
yeah,
everything's based on our nervous system is basically what I'm getting from you, or our unconscious minds, or however you want to say it, right? And so by getting to that and releasing, that's incredible.
yeah. So I guess I can explain a little bit about, to your viewers on how this all works and how we work. So as humans, when we're born, we have no ideas about ourselves or the world, right? We're kind of a blank slate. right?
Yeah.
We're basically let's say a computer, right? That's just been turned on for the first time, right? But as we're going through our life, we have our parents, that's starting to give us ideas about ourselves or the world, and we got our friends, teachers, all these influences around us starting to kind of mold us into, who we are. The thing about that is these these people around us, their ideas about the world and themselves might not, be the greatest sometimes, especially if you had a lot of hard times, and during their life or their parents' life, that those ideas about how the world is and how you are will be passed down. So I'll give you an example. So like let's say your parents, had the idea that life is a struggle, right? It's just an idea, right? Pull down an idea from the idea world. They thought about it for a while and it's charged, and the charge goes into your body, and that's a subconscious belief that's formed. So bad ideas, about the world or yourself, I like to call them like kind of like viruses, right? You have your computer long enough, you're gonna pick up some viruses or malware or spyware. It's gonna start slowing your system down.
Right.
Those are the negative thoughts and feelings coming in for yourself. So as we're growing up, as children, a lot of times we need adults to kind of regulate us and show us, how the world is, right? And sometimes these adults they don't always have the best perception of the world. Sometimes they have views on like maybe inadequacy or unworthiness or not deserving, right? Maybe from their life, right? And what happens is these beliefs gets passed down, to the child. And those are the things that I'm helping people with. And those are the things that cause the dis-ease in the body, the pain, the the and it can get bad, where it starts affecting organs or, you know, um, really affects your being or your life even. Um, so basically, what I do is I help people identify, these things, these charges that aren't really them. I call them outfits, right? So they picked up these outfits, growing up, and I just walk them through releasing these outfits. So if you want to see if you have an outfit, so I'll give you a good experiment here. So I'm gonna tell you four really really common beliefs that people have. I would say like maybe 95% of people have them in some way, shape, or form. So I'm
Mhm.
just not good enough. I'm inadequate. I'm unworthy, and I don't deserve it. Right. So those are pretty common. So if one of those, you feel like you might have that belief or you've had that thought or feeling at some time, just say that phrase in your head a few times, like, oh, I'm just not good enough. I'm just not good enough. Where in your body do you feel that negative sensation come up? Right. It might be a tightness, might be a heaviness, might be a pain. If you have a sensation coming up, that means your being is resonating with that phrase or those words where it shouldn't be, right? So that
Mhm.
means you picked up this idea about yourself, sometime growing up, and it's okay. It's not part of your true self. But once you realize that you're resonating with those words, you have an idea, the awareness that you carry that belief, right?
Mhm.
So if you were to say out loud, like, I am Santa Claus, right? You'd have no negative sensation in your body. You'd think it's ridiculous, right? And that's
Right.
how these negative beliefs should feel when you say them out loud or in your head. But if you feel any negative sensation come up as you're saying them, that means you're resonating with those words, that belief, right? So check in with those four. I'm just not good enough. I'm inadequate. I'm unworthy. I don't deserve it. And see if you have a negative sensation when you say that a few times in your head. If you don't feel anything and it just sounds neutral or foreign, then you probably don't have the belief. You haven't picked it up. So that's great. So you can imagine how many ideas, right, we can have about ourselves and the world that could be just, malware or spyware that we picked up.
Yeah. And that's funny because the entire session that I was with you, my neck was like killing me. Like we were going through everything, and you're like, where do you feel that? I'm like, it was always my neck, and then either my neck or my gut, right? Or and now that you mention that, I haven't had a neck pain at all this week.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Because that,
I'm like, and that's shocking because I've always had it.
right, right.
So now that you mentioned that, like I was thinking of the other aspects of it, but physically, like, yeah, no pain at all this week in my neck.
Right. That's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. That's how it
Thank
should be.
you.
That's how it should be.
Yeah. And as you were going through that, like I was checking myself, are those charges there? And no. They're
Right.
not there. Like they were when we went through the session, but they're not there now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice, when you get back to your core self. Humans naturally are very confident, very peaceful, very joyful naturally. We don't need anything external to feel those things. That's how we
Mhm.
should feel naturally. So if you have any, physical pain or emotional things going on, or your body's, having issues, our body's always trying to heal itself. So if you're having some kind of issues, that means there's some kind of emotional component that you need to release, usually, like 95% of the time. Um, Even when people think, they wake up with a sore neck or whatnot, they think, oh, it's because I slept funny, this and that. I mean, maybe, but most of the time, it's probably some emotion or belief just trapped in your neck, and that you need to feel into and release.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So, what three things would you've had to overcome yourself to get to where you're at in business today?
Oh, geez. Yeah, so when I left the hospital to start the business, it was very lonely. A lot of people thought I was, a little crazy for just leaving, a pretty well-paying job, and I'll say about six figures, and diving into a business that I had no idea that would be successful or not. But I had a vision, and I really wanted to do this. And to me, I was thinking to myself, who else is gonna do it if I don't do it? So I was just like, all right, let's just do it. So it's very lonely, in the beginning. But as I started to meet more people in the business world, it was kind of refreshing. I seen people using great supplements to help people heal, that didn't have much side effects, like our synthetic medication that we have today. There are so many different modalities of healing, from massage, chiropractic, hypnotherapy, all these different modalities, and a lot of them, are helping people with a lot of different things. And when you're looking for healing for yourself, find something that fits for you. You know, something that you have faith in, right? That you believe that'll work, and that'll be the most powerful for you. And when it comes to like different modalities or techniques, it's never the technique or modality. It's always the practitioner. There's always like a basically a a level, right? A level of the practitioner, right? So you could probably go to a chiropractor, you go and get an adjustment, and you might be worse than you were when you got in, right? So that's
Mhm.
the level of that practitioner. Or some chiropractors, you have an issue, and you go to them and they'll heal that issue and then some, right? And some of them can even heal organs and such. I've heard stories of, people on the liver transplant list getting off the liver transplant list from adjustments. So there's you need to find the right practitioner who's shown their results, and their clients, back them up, and say, hey, this person really knows what they're doing. So, but
Wow.
it's been. Go ahead.
So I was just going to ask, is there been any, like what kind of, did you go through any schooling to do this too? Or is it just learning from different healers and how they did it? I'm
Yeah.
just
So
curious.
there is no like university teaching healing and metaphysics, right? So,
Right.
um, I started with the Zone School of Healing. So a chiropractor, his name was Dr. Peter Goldman. He created this thing called the zone technique, which is very powerful. It's kind of a, a redo of the zone therapy from Dr. Thurman Fleet, who was an amazing chiropractor in the 1930s, and he was healing all kinds of stuff. If you want to learn more about Dr. Thurman Fleet, you can check out concept-therapy.org, and has like a bunch of his books that he wrote, and metaphysical things, and his own therapy technique. But Dr. Peter Goldman he's learning from direct disciples from Dr. Fleet. So he's created the Zone School of Healing, and it's an online school. And I joined it, kind of to learn a little bit more about healing, and I was really blown away because I found that the physical part of it was this much, and the principles of healing behind it was like this much. So that's what really made me start thinking about, oh, how does this really work? And so with that school, and then I met another gentleman who had a smaller school. His name was Christopher Scott. He was from New York, but he moved to Texas now, and he taught me a lot about emotional clearing, neurosomatic balancing, connecting to the body. So your body is actually your subconscious mind, and he got me interested in a lot of different things, and he actually had a lot of experience with a lot of different things. So he put certain things together and made it really easy to understand. Along with those two amazing teachers, I've gone to different seminars from different teachers who are teaching healing modalities. Read a bunch of different kind of metaphysical books. A really good book, if you're in healthcare, Western medicine healthcare, pick up the book When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name right. Mr. Gabor Mate. That book kind of opened my eyes on like how important, the emotional aspect of humans are for healing. And they have studies in there, so if you're into studies, they have a few studies in there. Um, so that was one of the turning points of when I started to realize that there's a whole new world out there besides, just pills and surgeries. And don't get me wrong though, I know I'm kind of bashing Western medicine, but there is a place for it, right? For emergency stuff, it's great. It's great. You break an arm, please go get it set. Go to the go to the ER, get a cast, and or if you get into an accident, have them stitch you all back together. They're really good at that kind of stuff. Or for like chronic things, like um quote unquote diagnoses, like IBS or Crohn's disease, or those kind of diagnoses that people have and they think it's like incurable or whatnot. Usually it's just an emotional imbalance, some kind of stressful or traumatic event that happened earlier in your life that needs to be released, and that's causing havoc in your body. Even the word autoimmune, I think it's like a kind of an umbrella term of you have some kind of emotional imbalance, and now it's coming out, as different things
Right.
in your body. So, um, but yeah, there's a place for Western medicine, so I don't want to bash them too much.
No.
Um, but I
Yeah.
think we could do a lot better, with certain things and really understanding that our past that matters. What happened to us when we were children, the belief systems we have about ourselves and the world that really matters, and how we feel. So
Right. I absolutely agree. It's funny because I would have disagreed with you 4 years ago. And now that I've been looking into stuff like this, I always, well, when you grow up with the only way that's all you don't, and you're not outside of your box looking at anything different, right? And I've always been the type of person that I hate medication. Um, and anytime that I'm on medication, I look to find a way to get off of it. And I had a severe reaction to mosquito bites back in September. And so, with the help of my holistic, this is before I met you. So, with the help of my holistic doctor, she's like, okay, we'll try this, this, and this. And my MD is saying, oh, no, go get this. It's full of steroids and full of like a cream that I didn't even use. And then I did use, because it was so bad, just to try and get it a little bit under control. I did take 3 of, I don't even remember the medication it was, but anyways, in a pill form. And they wanted me to take 17. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Didn't use the cortisone cream at all. And even the pharmacist said, I'm not sure why they gave this to you, because it has, especially because it was on my face, that could do some damage. But like, if you have to try it, do like very small. And I'm like, forget this. I'll suffer in pain. Do the whole holistic stuff, go take a bath, go do, put some other cream on it that was recommended. And I'm just like, this is wild. And that was the first time that I really decided, okay, the, regular medicine just wasn't something that I wanted. I wanted a Western medicine, I guess you could say. And it's funny, like my husband, that's all he's on, and he's been sick pretty much every year. I'm taking all these like vitamins and some holistic remedies that is recommended, especially through the flu season, and I haven't been sick at all. They come home with pneumonia, and here I am, like, I'm great. So there's obviously something to be said for that, especially the last 4 years when I decided, enough was enough. I didn't want to be on medication and all that. So I love what you're doing, because I can see that totally being like more people going towards that instead of, instead of electing for surgeries and being on all different kinds of medication.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, yeah, your body's always trying to heal. Just remember that. Like if let's say I got a cut on my arm, right? I don't need to tell my arm, hey, heal, 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 right? It just starts, scabbing over, and eventually, like I forget it's there. But if it's a deeper cut, right? Then we might need a little intervention, right? I got to clean out the wound. Maybe we need little stitches. But again, I forget it. I forget it was there. The same for emotional things, right? So if I'm driving in my car and somebody's like, F you, because I accidentally cut him off, like, oh, sorry, he's just having a bad day. But if maybe you had an alcoholic parent that beat you, for the first 3 years of their life, you might need a little intervention to help, release that stuff out of your system. So it's the same thing, for this work.
Wow, that just is incredible, because we don't think about that. And I don't know about you, but there was times that I didn't remember too much of my childhood, and I'd actually have to go back and ask my parents, what really happened? Did this happen? Did that happen? Because seriously, I didn't remember the first. I didn't remember the first 8 years at all
Wow.
until recently, and I was just like, I don't know why I blocked it out, but I blocked it out. Um, and not that like my parents were amazing people. It wasn't anything to do with them. It was just, I don't know, some stuff that had happened. And so it's weird how all that transpires. And, and some people can remember back in their parents, like their mother's womb. I'm like, I don't
Wow.
even would want to know
Oh, it must have been nice and comfy, right?
that. Dark place, let me tell you.
Uh,
Full of water just bouncing around, right? And one of those
yeah.
things. So I don't know, but yeah, it's funny how some people remember everything and some people don't. So, and I didn't realize that could have an effect on, like, I even heard that even how you were conceived can actually affect you too. And I was just like, man, that's just wild. Never,
Yeah.
because you never heard about that when you were growing up, you
Right.
know?
Right. And it's interesting too. Like I think some people have associated, children with a lot of ear infections with parents fighting all the time in their presence, right? And they don't want to hear that, so they start blocking it, subconsciously, and they get an infection. So it's all these things really affect your children. So, but the good thing is, if you start healing yourself, you'll start healing the line. Your children will start getting better, right? So
Well, what would hearing loss be due to? Not wanting to hear things?
maybe, yeah, maybe. They've been always, overpowered in some way, with voice or whatnot, right? And they just eventually just block it out, like they don't want to hear it anymore. So I have no idea. Could be, right?
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That's interesting. Hmm. I'll have to look more into that one. Um,
yeah,
yeah, that's totally, you definitely brought a new perspective to, to different healings, and I love what you're doing. So I'm glad we were connected, because anybody that comes up that says they have this, I'm like, hey, go to Austin. Go do a session with him, because it's powerful stuff. And if we just dealt with our crap, then hey,
yeah.
could you imagine if the entire planet was healed?
Oh man, it'd be a wonderful place. It'd be a wonderful place. We'd have a lot of people who really kind of understand, when people are mad or mad at you, it's never that moment. It's something else. So,
Mhm,
just remember that and, have compassion for them, you know,
mhm,
or people who are, sad. So I found out, with when I'm working with my clients and people in general, when they're quick to anger or they're quick to be sad and, hide and stuff, that's when they're like emotionally overloaded. They have to let some stuff go. They're at their breaking point, right? One way or the other. So they're either quick to anger or they're quick to sadness. And that's a big sign, so if your family members or friends are, you notice that in them, be like, hey, maybe you should, go find somebody who understands how to, get some of this stuff out of you so you can get back to, your peaceful self.
mhm. Yeah, exactly. It's funny you said that, because I would always go to anger.
Yeah.
That would, before I started my healing journey, I was always angry. And as somebody who tries to see the positive and everything, but constantly angry, it was kind of a huge contradiction.
Right.
And so releasing that anger, it's funny, because I used to do theophostic prayer ministry in one of the churches that I was at, and she would always ask me, "Are you sure you want to get rid of that?" I'm like, "Yes." Get rid of it. And so, because there's so much out there, but I definitely, do you plan on doing like a school yourself to teach other people how to heal?
Yeah. So I'm actually creating a remote healing certification. I'm gonna have my first class in January. I just want other people to really understand and be able to help people heal over Zoom. Then we can have a fleet of Zoom healers where you could just, if you have an issue, you could just in the comfort of your own home, just start clearing that stuff out so you can start healing.
Love that. You'll definitely have to keep us informed on that. We'll let our listeners know, when that is and how they can get that information from you. Because I
Yeah.
truly believe that, if more people can do that, um, our philosophy here is no man or woman left behind. So we always try and make sure that people get what they need. And I think a healed world would be a better world.
Yeah. I think there's a shift happening. People are looking for alternative things. A lot of people are calling me and, they tell me, Austin, I've had this pain for 5 years. I've tried everything that they told me, the doctors told me, it hasn't gone away. Can you help me? I'm like, wow, you're reaching out, this is like on Yelp. They found me on Yelp or something. And I'm like, oh, I'm so happy people are looking, for different ways to heal your mind and body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't believe we're at the half hour here. I just want to bring up your website again so people can get in touch with you. Is that the best place to get in touch with you, or is there a different place that you would rather them connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, the website has, my business line and my email. So, you can just shoot me a text and be like, hey, I seen you on, Dorothy's show. Can we book a session? Or, if you want to do a consultation, I do free consultations. We can talk and see if you're a good fit for what I do. Or, if I've seen whatever issue you have, healed before, and then we can start from there.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Austin. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. And I can't wait to hear more about your course in January, and really look forward to maybe having you back on in a year from now and see, what else has been transpiring in your world, and maybe even make it to Hawaii. You never know.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your time, Dorothy.
Absolutely. All right, guys, be unstoppable in all that you do, and come back next week, same time, same channel.